Hello everyone, welcome back to Reddo Reads. Today we have r/malicious compliance. If you want me to cover some specific subreddit in the next video, leave it in the comments. Tell me now. This one should be short and sweet. I teach during the school year and supplement my understandably bad income with various jobs. Grocery cashier at your Arizona hometown grocer. Every day I encounter at least 10 customers who are less than pleasant, but we manage to get through the transaction just fine. Today was a day like no other. My job is to make the customer's experience a pleasant one as they spend their money, putting food on my table. I don't take that for granted, promise. I appreciate even the butthole customers, but this particular lady devoured every morsel of my patience. She started with an "Oh, you are open," followed by a harshly yelled, "Oh, don't bag any of my things." I acknowledged this statement, then asked her for her phone number for her savings card. She interrupted me before I could get anything by saying, "I said, do not bag them," when I clearly was just setting them aside. I started to ask her again, when she interrupted the second I spoke by saying, "Oh, you know what? Go ahead and bag them, paper and plastic." Okay, fine. No problem. But man, I need to get this lady's number for her savings. What am I gonna do? I decided to give her some grace here. I asked her one more time with as much syrupy sweetness as a 47-year-old man can muster. "Ma'am, can I get your savings Right then, she spat out at me, "What's my total?" I tried to tell her that without the savings card, she'd be paying $85 more than she originally intended. It was super clear that she was shopping for the digital sales because that's all she got. Bags of chips that somehow need to be bagged paper in plastic on sale for 60% off, then Coke 12 packs that were buy 2, get 3 free, 4 iterations of them. But no, she wouldn't let me talk. She thought that I was done scanning and repeatedly and indignantly demanded for me to tell her the total. I didn't want to lie to her and say it was the price it should have been with the sale when it wasn't, but I didn't want to indicate to her that clearly the price was wrong. She said, "Tell me the total now!" So cue malicious compliance. I told her the total was $296.37, with that sweet intonation that the price was so good. I don't know if she was flustered because of how hot and heavy she was about, well, everything. But she went right along handing me 300s and I gave her her change. I handed her the receipt, and as soon as her and her friend walked toward the exit, they started to scan the receipt slowly as they trotted out. She shook her fist at the sunset. I guarantee there will be an update to follow. Well, entitlement is never good for you, but sometimes it can cost you money. In this case, it costed her $85. Y'all, we got to 200 subscribers. I am so happy. My goal for July was to get to 250 subscribers, and we're just 28 subscribers away from that. So please subscribe, you will make my day, and come back tomorrow because I release videos every day. Follow the speed limit if you say so. Back in my high school days, that the parking lot speed limit for cars would be 5 miles per hour. In theory, a good thing, reduces the chance of collisions greatly, and any that happen should be very minor. Now, here's the thing. The number of people that followed that is exactly 0. Not the parents, not the teachers, not the students. We are a K-12 school, so it was mostly parents. Now the administration, who has since been going on monthly power trips, did not like that and decided to start handing out speeding tickets, written warnings that you would lose your parking pass and get an email home. So we, around 30 out of 100 high schoolers who had cars, decided to play around with it. Now normally, car line takes about 20 minutes between when we leave. We get out a few minutes early so our cars are out of the way, and when the car line is mostly done, aside from a few stragglers. And that's with most cars going at about 10 to 15 miles per hour in the giant parking lot we had, which couldn't be used for parents to park. Well, that's in short what we decided. So, We complied in the most malicious way possible. Every high schooler with a car did less than 5 miles per hour throughout the parking lot. Normally, by the time the smaller kids got into their cars, we were gone, but not anymore. We were crawling through the parking lot at idle speed. What normally took 5 minutes to clear 30 cars now took 10. And it had consequences. The entire car line for the other 500 students was also moving at idle speed. Car lines started taking 30 minutes on a good day. To say parents were livid is an understatement. Complaints filled the Facebook page, and the sassier parents reminded everyone that we just followed rules set by the beloved admin. Beloved everywhere but the high school, with only one way out, and us having to get out before parents because we were literally in the way. Our change screwed up the entire car line. In fact, it got so bad that the school was told to fix it by the city or there would be consequences, since we started backing up a major road during rush hour. At the start of the next year, the habit fell out, since most of that 30 people had left, and we went back to going a safe but above the speed limit speed. It's been 2 years, not a thing has been said. And there is a hilarious comment here. Glad the admin finally got up to speed. Yeah, true. But honestly, administration did nothing. They were told by the city that, well, guys, you have to do something about your parking lot speed situation because you are causing troubles on the major road. And as far as I understand from the post, school administration did nothing. They just decided that, well, it's up to students. Because as we all know, teenagers are acting so wise when they have any amount of power. Stay until it's done? Okay, I'm doing it by the book then and getting an extra day off. I used to work as a supervisor in my last job and was directly working with a union. Some of my managers really didn't want to deal with things when it came to workplace injuries, so I had to deal with most of them. If you have worked with a union before, this is a very long and time-consuming process. While important, very tedious. So that brings us to that one evening. I was on my second double in a row of 3 and very much ready to go home. As I wrapped up my area, evening manager texted me to assist another supervisor with an injury. The supervisor was newer and needed to be taught. I informed them I was already there on a double and needed to come back in the morning, and was there anyone else who could help them? This manager, who was notorious for passing their work on others, he texted me no, and I had to stay until it was done. Okay, I have written documentation of a directive. Who am I to say no? Alright, well then, since I'm teaching, I'm going by the book. I opened up the union and company policy on workplace incidents and followed it step by step. By the time we got to the substance test portion, the local clinic we used was closed, and we needed to call it in. This is important because if you do not use the local clinic, the out-of-area one takes more than 4 hours to come out. While that was processing, I did a lengthy investigation with the union. I spent the entire night going by the book, taking pictures and documenting everything I could. By the time I finished and the substance test finished, it was 7 a.m. and my shift started in 30 minutes. This is the time the morning manager came in. They are one of my favorites and why I pick mornings all the time. When she saw me, she said, "Oh, you're in early?" I said, "I never left." Her face dropped because they have a rule that while management, including supervisor, can work more than 16 hours, if they work more than 20 hours, they need a 24-hour reset. I wasn't in the union, but still hourly salaried and got overtime over 8 hours in a day. So not only was I going not to be able to make my morning shift, I couldn't make my evening shift either. I was still gonna be paid for both while being sent home. She asked me who told me to do this, and I showed her the message from the evening manager telling me to stay until it's finished. I went home and enjoyed my extra day off until weekend. When I came back, I had an interview about the incident with the senior manager. After showing my messages, which the manager tried to delete, but only did on his side, I was dismissed without any issues. The manager was written up by the senior manager, and they had to pay me my 2 regular shifts plus 24 hours of overtime. Needless to say, I stopped picking up after that, no matter how much they begged. Why? It sounds like a great opportunity to get a paid day off. I would do that every time they asked. But I salute the evening manager who was like, well, I decided the messages, that means they are gone forever from everywhere. Dude, it really doesn't work like that. I think even my grandma knows that. No shorts allowed in this heat? Sure. My office has quite a casual dress code policy and in general kinda chill about what we wear. However, we're not allowed shorts. So in the UK here, we get about 5 hot days a year that we get to enjoy or endure. One of my colleagues got an HR email a while ago for wearing shorts in the office. He has great legs, couldn't blame him. When the weather was sweltering, the women in the office wear short skirts and dresses and showing shoulders all the time without any bat of an eye. And yay for them! But somehow shorts in men are just no. Oh well, I'm not commuting in 30 plus degrees Celsius in jeans. 30 degrees Celsius is almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm very proudly queer, but I have never worn a skirt before. But I bought some fabulous skirts and wore them twice to work since. Once just to a regular office day, and then last Friday when we had a summer party. No one has spoken to me about my wardrobe choice yet, but my legs were so free. Some male colleagues told me they were inspired and we might see more skirts in the office when it gets warm again. Yes, I know kilts are a thing, but they're heavy and woolly and absolutely wouldn't be nice in the heat. Well, I live in Finland and we get 0 hot days. A summer day considered hot in Finland is like 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, in other parts of the world it's not hot, but in Finland, awfully hot. And I cannot imagine wearing jeans that day. I think we should leave behind all of the skirts are for girls and pants are for boys. Just wear what you want. Well, I guess the only kind of shorts that maybe would not be appropriate in office setting are bike shorts. But you get what I mean, right? Hello everyone! Welcome back to Reddo Reads. Today we have r/Am I the Butthole? If you want me to cover some specific subreddit in the next video, leave it in the comments. Am I the butthole for kicking my friend out of my party when he hooked his PS5 up to my TV? Last weekend, I, 24 male, threw a housewarming party with 30-ish of my friends. I supplied drinks and food and had games set up and whatnot. One friend came with a big backpack. Initially, I said to him, "Oh man, you didn't have to bring anything." But then he slid a PlayStation 5 out of it. I'm not gonna lie, I was immediately ticked off. It wasn't really a video gaming party, but I didn't want to control how people enjoyed themselves, so I let him hook up his PlayStation and start playing. I didn't tell him what kind of party it was, besides saying housewarming and approximately 30 people. But I just thought he'd know I wouldn't be on the couch with him playing PS5. This is where I'm wondering if I'm the butthole. As the party progressed, I was getting increasingly annoyed by having him on the couch with Call of Duty blasting on the TV. Everyone else was close to the TV talking and playing beer pong, and it just kinda embarrassed me. I didn't say anything to him, though until he started to get visibly annoyed by people passing in front of the TV. I sat beside him and said, "If you'd rather be home playing video games, you have no obligation to be here." He laughed it off and kept playing. A bit later, I asked him to be my partner in beer pong, and he said he'd rather keep playing PS5. I kinda just turned my TV off at that point and told him to go home. He left quickly and in a bad mood, and people saw what happened. I immediately felt guilty, and he hasn't responded to me in days. Am I the butthole? Yup. Why are you even asking? It really does sound like dumb jealousy. Oh no, not everyone is paying attention on me during my party. This day should be about me. I'm the princess today. Boo-hoo. First you say, I did not want to control how anyone is enjoying themselves. But then, you don't want to play nice with me. You're out. I would also leave and never come back. Y'all, we got to 200 subscribers. I am so happy. My goal for July was to get to 250 subscribers. And we're just 28 subscribers away from that. So please subscribe, you will make my day, and come back tomorrow because I release videos every day. Am I the butthole for telling my parents I had hobbies? So I, 17 female, got in an argument with my parents, 47 male and 46 female, last night during dinner, where my dad basically talked about how I have no hobbies, no personality, and no social life, and how my lack of interest will prevent me from getting a job and such. His last comment that really ticked me off was when he called me an empty shell of a human being. I went berserk. I used to like painting until he said he will not buy me more paint because I'm wasting it on garbage art that looks awful. This was literally my second time painting. I was 8. I used to like baking and he told me my baking was burnt and nasty. It wasn't burnt. Me and my neighbors that I gave some of the baked goods to loved it. I used to like cooking and my mom said it wasn't good and I probably should stop before I poisoned them. They had a good laugh at my mom's joke. I used to like sewing and my mom said she wouldn't teach me since there is no point and I would end up quitting anyways. She's referring to my other hobbies that I gave up, but I had reasons for it. I liked skip roping, baseball. I liked dress designing. I liked embroidery. I liked hairstyling and doing nails. I liked writing novels and books in general. I was interested in ballet, gymnastics too. I liked writing poems. I had so many things I liked doing. I was in 3 clubs: Future Medical Profession Club, Baking Club, Photography Club, before my dad told me he wouldn't drive me anymore because it's too much work and I should study more instead. I had to cancel plans because my parents wouldn't allow me to go out with friends. I had interest in cardiovascular medicine and they told me I was too stupid for it. Too stupid to also do engineering, how I'd never make it as a scientist, writing doesn't pay enough, and my designs are ugly, so no one would buy clothes that I make, etc. They ruined my interests and now they are upset I have none. I no longer have the interest to go out with my friends or do anything, quite literally. At the end of this, I was crying, genuinely in shambles. My parents were shocked and just didn't say anything. I got up and went to my room and called my friend to vent. She basically told me that she understood what I meant, but I cannot speak to my parents that way, and that they want the best for me, that they were looking out so I didn't waste time on unnecessary hobbies that would do me no good. I hung up on her and texted the group chat and I basically got the same response. Am I going insane? I still don't think I'm wrong at all. Am I the butthole? Oh no, you're not. This story breaks my heart. Of course, not every hobby of a child will become a career, but hobbies are not career plans. I remember when I was really young, maybe 8 or 9, even 7 maybe, I was really into baking, but I was so bad at it. I remember the first pie. It wasn't really pie, it was some kind of a loaf, but I guess I intended to bake a pie. It was some kind of sweet dough with jam in it. For some reason, I decided to use yeast instead of baking powder because I guess I was improvising. And I tried it and I was like, yikes, it doesn't really taste good. But my parents were like, oh, you baked something. And they tried it, and I remember they were like, OMG, divine, gourmet, the best pie we ever had in our lives. I talked about this situation with my parents. They don't really remember it. But in my head, I had such a big feeling of reassurance and that I could do anything if I put my mind into it. So yeah, this story is just a superb example of awful parenting. Am I the butthole for telling my sister-in-law to go F herself at her baby's sip and see? My wife's sister, Jan, and her husband, Matt, welcomed their first child about 4 months ago. Jan didn't want a baby shower, but decided on doing a sip and see for close relatives to meet the baby. This happened last Saturday. My wife has met the baby before this, but it was my first time seeing them since the birth. About 2 months ago, my dad passed away unexpectedly in his sleep. It's been a really difficult time for me. I'm in therapy and on antidepressants, both of which are helping. I wasn't really looking forward to attending the sip and see, but it meant a lot to my wife that I come with her, and she kind of pressured me to come since I hadn't seen the baby yet. The event was just close family, about 15 of us total, and very informal. About an hour into the event, Jen asked me if I wanted to hold the baby. I told her I didn't really want to, but she pretty much shoved the baby into my arms. She then sat next to me and told me that she was worried about my dad and that they regretted not being able to attend the funeral because of the baby. I thanked her and told her not to worry about the funeral. I understand. She then went on this weird tangent about a new life springing from someone passing away and renewal of energy. I had no idea what she was talking about and just kind of nodded along. Then she said that she hopes seeing and holding a beautiful baby will help me get over my loss. It was a weird comment, and I looked at her and told her, "No, this is not helping me get over the passing of my father." She got defensive and told me that it was supposed to be a joyous day to celebrate a new life and that I should be happy and not dwell on passing on my father. I didn't want to cause a scene in front of everyone, but I was pissed. I handed Jen her baby back and leaned in close to her and whispered, "Go F yourself, Jen." I then got up and walked over to my wife and told her that I needed to leave. I told her she can stay if she wants, but I need to get out of there ASAP. She asked me why, and I told her I would talk to her about it on the drive home or later if she wants to stick around. By that time, Jen had gotten up and was on a warpath. She came up to me, still holding the baby, and poked her finger at me, telling me I have no right to talk to her like that. That got everyone's attention, and now everyone was looking at us. Matt came over to ask what was going on. My wife was confused. Jen was basically yelling. The baby was starting to cry. It was a mess. I told my wife I need to leave and she needs to make a decision right then. She ended up coming home with me. I explained what happened on the drive home, and she said she understood why I was upset by Jen's comments and agreed she was out of line, but I shouldn't have said that to her. My wife has been getting a lot of grief from Jen and her parents, basically calling me the biggest butthole they've ever met. I don't even know if an apology will help. To be frank with you, OP does not really give off vibes of, am I the butthole? I think he's sure that he's not, and everybody around him is a butthole. His sister-in-law for having a baby and then talking to him, which was weird, I agree. And then all the family members because they did not take his side, and then his wife because she did not say, "Oh no, poor baby hubby." Again, I agree that sister-in-law was out of line, but I think she's hormonal, and maybe it is her way of cheering OP up, which was wrong. But OP overreacted. I think he understood that he overreacted, and he doubled down instead of apologizing. It was just close family. I am sure everybody would understand that, hey, sorry, I overreacted. I'm still very sore after my father passing away. I think I have to go home and process this. But no, he doubled down. Dude, you should know better than that. Am I the butthole for calling out the volunteer church organizer after her awful actions after she made my daughter-in-law cry? My daughter-in-law lost both of her parents, her mother earlier this year and dad when she was 15. I love her like she's my own, and I am so proud of her and how far she has come. I am very involved in my church, and we were planning an event for moms and kids. It coincided with my monthly sec lunch ministry for seniors, so in the morning we'd all make the lunches and then we'd do other things. Make bracelets, run around, grill, tie-dye, etc. My daughter-in-law is not religious, but she does like to give back. So when I invited her, she accepted. We got the lunch supplies and she helped with the lunches. She even offered to go deliver them to the organization we work with, since she has a big car. This is when the church organizer, Kathy, started an issue. She thanked my daughter-in-law and said that would be all we needed from her all day, and she can go home after. I said, no, daughter-in-law is here to spend the day with me and have fun with everyone. Kathy had the gall to make an ugly face and said, she's not everyone's daughter. I said, that's okay. She's my daughter-in-law if Kathy didn't know. Kathy made another ugly face and said that didn't count and that she didn't even belong here, which ruffled my feathers. Everyone should be allowed. If one of the dads wanted to come join us, I would have said yes. Who cares? We got into an argument and my daughter-in-law ended up crying. Again, she just lost her mom. She left and told me to have fun, and I rounded on Kathy and told her that what she'd just done was as unchristian as I'd ever seen, and that if she cannot find it in her heart to welcome everyone to our events, she should not be the volunteer organizer. Kathy told me tough cookies, if I don't like it, to take it up with the church office. And a few other members overheard, and as I got ready to load up my van for sack lunches, a few helped me and got to talking about how awful Kathy has been. After I left, they all cornered Kathy and said they would all talk to the church office. Well, she isn't the organizer anymore, and she has been for over 2 decades. She ended up confronting me after church, raising her voice, getting in my face, etc. She told me I had ruined her life over my daughter-in-law not belonging to the church and that she hopes I was happy. I admit I did feel bad after that, but I'm not sure if I should. Well, Opie answered her question herself. Not the butthole. I would choose my family over some random lady in church any day of the week. And this Kathy lady, she was clearly on a power trip, and I'm glad Opie humbled her really hard. Hello everyone, welcome back to Red Doe Reads. Today we have r/malicious compliance. If you want me to cover some specific subreddit in the next video, leave it in the comments. Focus on the work at hand, right? You got it, boss. Another story about Sam and Murad. My manager, Sam, is extremely chill and outstanding leader. His manager, Murad, is a sticker for the rules. I work as infrastructure and configuration manager. I also love automation and automate everyday tasks for myself, my team, and sometimes management as well. Most of management loves it. Murad is not a fan though. He wants me to focus on my own work and he loves doing things manually. So here is the story. This is from November 2022. My son had been ill for 2 weeks. He's on the mend, but requires constant monitoring to take his meds and fluids every hour. You cannot expect that discipline from a toddler. I have taken a leave for a week to focus on his recovery. In my absence, Sam has been handling most of my work. I check and reply to mails at the end of the day. I'm not required to do this, and Sam asks me not to, but I do it anyway just to get ahead of potential issues the project might face due to my absence. At the end of the week, a management meetup is scheduled. Now, only management, team manager, scrum master, system architect, is required for the call. But this type of management meetup is a potential gold mine for automation ideas, so I usually join in. In the previous 3 months, by joining this monthly meeting and taking about automation ideas that came out of them, I had saved the project and management around 100 hours of cumulative work weekly. The meeting starts on Friday morning. It is a regional holiday for a lot of people, so most have joined from home. About 20 people have joined. I have joined as well from my home. My son is sitting beside me, and I am teaching him how to play chess. The meeting doesn't really take a lot of focus from me, so my son doesn't mind. He's actually fascinated by most of my work, even though he's too young to understand any of it. Most of my teammates and Sam knows my son, having interacted with him during several calls. Suddenly, Murad joins the call. He's usually never in this call and he rarely gets along with the agenda or the way the call usually goes. The demeanor is usually pretty casual, people calling each other by names instead of official salutations, people talking in native languages sometimes, Murad, being everyone's boss and having a giant pull up his rear, commands a serious tone from every meeting he's in. However, on this very occasion, it seems he wants to join in on the casual camaraderie. He wants everyone to turn on their cameras. Everyone takes a minute and the screen starts to light up with everyone's video. It seems most have hastily put on a formal shirt. Sam chimes in asking me to keep my camera off because it's not required. Murad cuts in. The conversation goes in like this. Sam: OP, you can keep your camera off. It is not required. Murad: OP is here? Must be to take minutes. He can turn his camera on as well. Me: actually, I am on leave today. I joined in case my input is needed for any automation. Murad: that's fine, but please turn on your camera. It would be good for everyone to see everyone else. I turn my camera. Both my son and I and the chessboard between us is visible. I am using a wide-angle camera. My T reads, I work for money. For loyalty, hire a dog. Murad's face was at its widest, and it came to rest after 6 seconds with a reduction rate of 1 mm per second. The rest of the conversation goes like this. Murad: OP, that is not office appropriate. Me: it is quite appropriate for home though, where I currently am. Murad: you also seem to be playing chess. I would suggest you take your work seriously. Please focus on the matter at hand. Me: you are right. I should focus. Disconnect. In a call later, Sam said that while he explained to Murad that I was on leave at that moment in front of 20 other people, the sound of my disconnection felt surreal. It's currently 2024. My automations have saved the company around 430 hours and the company 250 hours weekly. Murad never joins that call anymore. I mean, I see that OP has this whole spiel about, ooh, I work for money, I'm not loyal, But then he goes and does his company a huge service and saves up 680 hours of work weekly. If this is not loyalty, I don't know what is. And I love this malicious compliance. I'm sure OP's son enjoyed it too. Y'all, we got to 200 subscribers! I am so happy! My goal for July was to get to 250 subscribers, and we're just 28 subscribers away from that. So please subscribe, you will make my day, and come back tomorrow because I release videos every day. Just answer my simple question. Years back, I had a temporary job at the reception of a hospital. The concept of the hospital was that the external doctors could book rooms for surgery and for their patients after surgery. If they had something bigger to do, they couldn't do in their own medical practice. There was also a sleep laboratory, run by an external practice where patients stayed overnight for their examination and measurements. For that, usually the technician and the patient started coming in around 7 p.m. and they all left at 6 a.m. Usually, anything beside the measurements during sleeping were done in the medical practice, which was in walking distance in the same street. Setting: random day, somewhere way before 7 p.m., where usually nobody is in the sleep laboratory. Nice woman comes in and asks about the way to the sleep lab. I'm pretty sure that she's at the wrong location, and I explained that to her. I asked her to take a seat nearby and to give me a moment so I can check with the practice where she needs to go. She thanks me and takes a seat. While I'm still typing the number of the practice, enter awful woman. Awful woman asked the same question as nice woman. I tried to explain the situation, same as before, but she aggressively interrupts me and slams something along the lines of, "It can't be so hard to answer a simple question. Tell me where the sleep lab is, now!" In my face. Cue malicious compliance. I smile and tell her the way. First floor, to the right, and so on. Awful woman walks off. I call the practice and they tell me that, as I expected, nobody is at the hospital that day and that every patient should go to the practice. And that they all should also know that, because it's on their note with the date and time for the appointment. I inform nice woman, and she gets going to the practice, probably still in time for her appointment. Awful woman comes back around 15 minutes later and tells me that nobody's there. I just shrug and go back to my work. This story have to be put in dictionary next to malicious compliance, because OP did exactly what he was asked for, and I cannot imagine how it could work better than this. Pretend the lot is full. Many decades ago, when I was a student enrolled in driving school, the instructor told me to pretend the lot is full and park the car. It was very early in the morning, so the shopping mall lot where we were practicing parking was empty. I knew that the pretend it's full part was meant to emphasize the importance of driving slowly and cautiously and centering the car between the lines. But my teenage brain couldn't resist the obvious opportunity for malicious compliance. I slowly drove up and down the lanes and around that lot for at least 5 minutes before the instructor finally got flustered and barked, "What are you waiting for? Park the car!" "You told me to pretend the lot is full." I give the instructor full props for accepting the malicious compliance humor of the moment, as I watched him shake his head while his expression morphed from anger through realization and into a smiling instruction to just park the car. Ooh, I would love if OP would be driving around and just talking to themselves. "Ooh, busy day today. Not a single empty spot. Oh, that butthole parked between 2 spots. Gosh darn it." No pork. Working at Pizza Shack years ago, when a gentleman came in to order carryout. We had a special going on 1-topping large pizzas. He was a bit loud. Not mean, exactly, just very forceful, and didn't like it when anyone talked except himself. He had his way of waiting for a question, then loudly answering it halfway through. "Okay, and meat lovers," and the large, and so on. So I got the order, and so did everyone in a 3-mile radius of 3 large meat lovers pizzas. I don't think he was deaf. He seemed to hear me just fine, but it seemed like he just could not stand it if anyone else said more than 3 words. "And the pan crust with no pork." Now that was a bit of an issue. The meat lovers came with pepperoni, pork sausage, Italian sausage, beef, ham, and bacon. I thought perhaps he meant specifically he wanted to leave off the pork sausage, but it was hard to tell when I was unable to form an entire sentence. Eventually, after half the windows in the place had shattered, it became clear that he wanted no pork products on his pizzas at all. So that left everything else on it is pork, apart from the cheese and sauce. I attempted to explain this. "No pork," he mentioned once or twice. Okay then, I tried to tell him the price difference, but my head started to hurt. So he paid for 3 meat lovers, which cost a lot more than 1-topping pizzas, and they came with beef on them. Basically burger pellets. I left any further explanation up to my manager, who had heard the commotion from his home 3 states away. I think that what could maybe happen here, since we have no continuation of the story, is that maybe the person was a foreigner. I have seen it myself in my neighborhood pizza place, when people know only this set of words about pizza toppings, pizza size, choosing form of payment, and etc., but they're not really able to form a dialogue. Maybe that was that. Hello everyone, welcome back to Red Doe Reads. Today we have r/Am I the Butthole? If you want me to cover some specific subreddit in the next video, leave it in the comments. Am I the butthole for refusing to change my daughter's therapist when my wife, aka her stepmom, wants us to? I, 37 male, have a 10-year-old daughter called Ren. She's my only child with my late wife Sarah. Sarah passed away on Ren's 5th birthday, cancer. 3 years ago, I met my current wife Lindsay, 35 female, and we got married just under a year ago, and our daughter together is a few weeks old. Overall, Ren and Lindsay get along well. She calls Lindsay Bug, which is a nickname Lindsay's grandparents use for her. Ren thinks it's funny. Ren struggled with the loss of her mom, and very initially with me meeting someone. Her original therapist, she was saying for grief, retired, and it took forever to find another therapist who could help her grieve and adjust to the changes in her life. I admit, I was delayed in getting her help to begin with. It was over a year after Sarah passed away that Ren started therapy. I went through many therapists after the original one retired until Ren liked, would open up to, and was comfortable with another one. Therapy has helped. She doesn't go as frequently, but she still attends. Lindsay believes Ren needs to see a new therapist because Ren calls our daughter together a half-sister. She doesn't call her just a sister, but half is used all the time. Lindsay's parents questioned where she learned half from, and I hear a couple of Ren's friends mention step and half siblings. Lindsay doesn't like that Ren doesn't just say sister. I told her it's not a big deal. The family therapist we saw for about 11 months also said it was normal and let her decide if she drops the half in time. But the Lindsay believes this is a sign she needs more help to process the fact that our daughter is not less of a sister and to help her realize saying half about her sister might hurt her sister's feelings. I argued that our daughter will grow up hearing about step and half siblings in school and it will not be unnatural. She said just because others do it doesn't mean we should be okay with it. And she asked what the harm is in finding a new therapist. I said that actually Ren has met with all of them local to us before we found another the very last time. I said Ren has a therapist she's still working with and has helped her. I told her I also don't want to change therapist just to make her say sister instead of half-sister. Lindsay said if I respected her opinion as an equal partner and decision-maker in Ren's life, I would agree to try this for our family's sake, because clearly Ren has some issues with her sister. While she said this, Ren was watching her sister sleep and smiling at her. Ren chose a special photo of her and her sister for her bedroom wall. She still loves her, but she knows they have different moms, and I think half makes sense for that. Lindsay said she doesn't feel equal, and even though she let the topic drop, I can tell she feels dismissed. Am I the butthole? No, not at all. I think that who maybe can need a therapist is your wife, but only to just help her process her feelings and thoughts, because obviously she is very anxious about future relationship between your daughter with Sarah and your daughter with Lindsay. It obviously comes from place of love. But I think to subject 10-year-old who is in therapy and is doing fine in that therapy to such a major change wouldn't be good for her. Y'all, we got to 200 subscribers! I am so happy! My goal for July was to get to 250 subscribers, and we're just 28 subscribers away from that. So please subscribe, you will make my day, and come back tomorrow because I release videos every day. Am I the butthole for telling my mom she and her husband need to admit they effed up and find a way to move on? My parents divorced when I, 18 male, was 6. My younger sister was 4 and my younger brother was 3. They shared custody 50-50 of us ever since. Though now I don't have a custody thing set up because I'm an adult now and no longer part of any of that. I stay with my dad now. Mom remarried when I was 11 and my siblings were 9 and 8. Her husband was divorced, had 2 kids who were 8 and 6. He had primary custody of them, but in the summer, they would get longer time with their mom. My mom and her husband moved in together a month before the wedding. From that point on, they created these really strict, really weird, and really crazy rules that basically made sure we were never a blended family and there was always animosity. Those rules were, if you want permission for something, ask your new parent, not the regular one. No bio siblings only playing. Everyone has to mix. No closed bedroom doors. We want to see if you're mixing. Every day you'll tell the people in the family one thing you love about them. You must give everyone hugs before leaving the house. No step or half nonsense in this house. There were others. Those were the most damaging ones. My mom told me she wanted us to be a happy blended family and she did not want favoritism of parents or siblings. She told me I didn't have a brother and sister anymore. I had 2 of each. I also had a second dad. They enforced this too, or tried to. The hugs never took off, and I ever told her husband or his kids stuff I loved about them. I never loved them to begin with. The rules led to fighting, to us pretty much causing chaos if they took us places. We were all grounded pretty much all the time at their house. We also started doing stuff to make sure family vacations couldn't happen together. Her husband's kids would make plans with their mom to go to her weeks and mom had a vacation booked for. My siblings and I would ask dad to book his vacation first and put it in their app. My mom and her husband would get so frustrated and they would try giving us these talks. Mom would come to me and say I was the oldest and needed to set an example. And now that I no longer go to mom's house, my siblings don't want to either and make a bigger deal out of it. Mom called me yesterday and told me I needed to help create the family unit they fought so hard for before it's too late. She mentioned me being the oldest again and now I should be there for a week when we can all be a family. I told her no, I don't want to. And we're not a family. I told her they effed up. They needed to admit it and they need to find a way forward. Because none of the kids they set so many rules for want to be a family. Mom started crying down the phone to me asking why I wanted to ruin her marriage and rejected the family they were trying to be. Now, could I say they failed when we wouldn't even try? Am I the butthole? Oh, dude, of course not. I think your mom and her husband has to write a book of how not to parent a blended family. Because of course, setting up rules and boundaries works so well with kids. And if I were OP, I would already start saving up for therapy. Am I the butthole for telling my cousin I cannot come to his wedding because of no child rule? My cousin is getting married at the end of August in California at a vineyard. No one in the family is in California, so to go, I need to get a hotel. Me, my mom and brother found an Airbnb that's relatively close. Also, I should mention my husband is posted abroad and won't be coming. I was going to fly to the US for this. The invite came out only 3 weeks ago and we had to scramble to find a place. The issue now is that I have a 4-month-old baby who only breastfeeds and won't take a bottle. She had to drink from an open cup one time because I needed to take a driving exam, and that is the longest she has ever been away from me. They just let us know that no children under 12 are allowed. So I told them that logistically I cannot come. They suggested that me and my mother go back and forth to the Airbnb to watch the baby, and I said it's just too big of a deal. To fly all the way there, pay for Airbnb, and then go back and forth during the wedding, it just doesn't seem worth it. It's a lot of effort to do all of that by myself with a small baby. The Airbnb and plane are still refundable at this point. My cousin is mad that I'm canceling as they paid per head and cannot reduce the amount at this point. I said they can try and find someone else to invite. I said it's his fault that they didn't write the child rule on the invitation. He said I should not be stingy and get a babysitter. I don't know anyone in that area of California, and honestly, paying for a babysitter on top of an Airbnb and flight is ridiculous to me. He says it is standard not to bring children to weddings. So, am I the butthole for canceling close to the date because I cannot bring my baby with me? Add it for clarity. Short notice is because bride is pregnant. I live with my husband in Germany, where he is posted. Baby already has passport because she is only US citizen. Because of the shotgun nature of the wedding, the invite consisted of a graphic image without particular guest names emailed to the guests. The RSVP system also let me choose up to 3 people. So I thought that was me, my baby, and my husband. And apparently, about 30 people have cancelled because of this. And that's why they're complaining so much about the costs. Not the butthole, obviously. If you are organizing an event and wedding, no matter how joyful is just an event, you have to be clear on all the rules that you are implying. So he wanted to rush it, he rushed it. But not everybody can accept the rules. And me personally, I do not understand the need to rush. It's not like when you get a baby, you will not be able to get married. Am I the butthole for not driving my neighbor to her hospital of choice, instead taking her to the one which was more convenient for me? I live halfway between Hospital A and Hospital B. Hospital A is maybe 3 minutes less of a drive and is a large hospital. whereas Hospital B is smaller, however, still good. My neighbor is pregnant, and yesterday she knocked on my door saying she had complications and needed to go to the hospital, but was unable to drive herself. I said, of course. I was almost ready to leave for work, and Hospital B is on the way. A 4-minute detour. She told me that she needed to go to Hospital A, and I said sorry, but I'm already cutting it close to being late, and that Hospital A would be a 30-minute detour. Otherwise, I could call her an ambulance and get our other neighbor, elderly, without a license, to stay with her. Neighbor said she didn't have ambulance cover and reiterated that she needed to go to Hospital A. I apologized, said that I could not do that, and after some back and forth, I ended up leaving without her. When I returned home from work, I copped an earful from my neighbor's boyfriend, saying that I am lucky her complications weren't that serious. I should also add, it's not a matter of Hospital A being the primary care for her pregnancy. For that, she goes to Hospital C. She didn't want to go to Hospital B because it is smaller. I was hoping not to have to explain my line of work, but it turns out it is important in this context. I'm a support worker. I support clients living with disabilities to attend their own appointments, keep their routines, etc. So if I was late to work, this would have an impact on the people I work with. I don't work a standard 9 to 5 in an office. First, when I was reading the story, I was like, ooh, such a pothole. You cannot bring poor lady to the hospital she wants. But then when OP explained their line of work, I changed my mind. I say not the butthole. If I were that lady, I would just call an Uber or a Lyft or something. Because going knocking on doors, it's such a waste of time. I understand that you cannot call an ambulance, but what if the neighbor wouldn't be home? What would you do? The lady gives off major stingy vibes. Hello everyone, welcome back to Reddo Reads. Today we have r/malicious compliance. If you want me to cover some specific subreddit in the next video, leave it in the comments. Teacher wouldn't listen, so the entire class complied and he got fired. This happened in the early 2000s, in my junior year of high school. The district had just built the third high school in our city, and most of the teachers were new. The band director was one of those new hires. He was qualified for the job, but had zero people skills and was extremely abrasive towards students. He had previously taught university and could not wrap his head around the fact that high school students are not college-level music majors who live in practice rooms and write symphonies in their sleep. His normal behavior consisted of berating students for not knowing university-level curriculum, talking down to everyone about how he cannot understand why they were so incompetent, and stopping rehearsals to go on a long tangents about things that had nothing to do with music. Every day, at least 2-3 students would leave class in tears. We complained to the higher-ups, and they repeatedly brushed us off. He made students hate attending his music classes, and many dropped band and orchestra as a result. Guys, we will get back to this story just in a second because, y'all, we got to 200 subscribers! I am so happy! My goal for July was to get to 250 subscribers, and we're just 28 subscribers away from that! So please subscribe, you will make my day, and come back tomorrow because I release videos every day. One of the classes he taught was supposed to be Intro to Music Theory. For those who don't know music, this would be a class that should typically teach things like different types of chords, the definition of music symbols, the logic behind key changes, etc. At the first class of the year, there were about 25 kids enrolled. Most of these were music and drama kids who wanted to be teachers or performers in the arts. One of the first day, he handed us a quiz because he wanted to see how much we knew. I think there were maybe 3 to 5 kids who were able to attempt a single question on the quiz. No one got a single answer right. That's how advanced it was. Imagine signing up for what you think is basic pre-algebra class and walking into advanced calculus. This teacher spent the entire class period berating us for not being prepared when no one could even attempt his quiz. We told him this is an intro class. None of us have learned anything like this before. And his response was, "Really? I thought this was an advanced class." The next class period, there were maybe 15 kids enrolled. He did the same thing, asked us to perform something we cannot even understand, and then berated us for not being prepared. At every class, he would say, "I thought you all were musicians. This is supposed to be an advanced class." By the end of the second week, there were 6 students left enrolled in this class, including myself. He softened up slightly to those of us who stayed and seemed to think we were his prize students and that this was his class of elites. Think Professor Slughorn from Harry Potter. In truth, we all thought that he was insane and cruel, but the 6 of us had sufficient music background and experience to understand a fraction of his lessons. Without the bell curve, we all would have failed his class. A few months go by, and we are at the end of the first semester. By now, every student connected to music in the school hated this guy, and repeated complaints had done nothing to fix the problem. The admins filed away every complaint, but never did anything more than remind him that he's supposed to be more kind to students. He changes nothing and still berates students and make them cry. So when it comes to the final exam for his theory class, he decides that he wants to give it to us early. So on the day the final is supposed to be scheduled, we can have a class party instead. 4 of us have the same period after his class together as well. That class was AP English, and we were prepping for the AP test. We had no problem with a class party in music right before the AP prep exam, so we didn't complain. The day comes of our music final exam, and after we finish the test, he tells us that for our class party, he wants to take us all to breakfast at a new IHOP that opened 20 minutes away. His class was first period. We tried to tell him all the issues with this plan. We aren't allowed to leave campus without permission slips. It was a closed campus policy due to an incident where a student who left campus for lunch got hit by a car and passed away. We will not get back in time for second period, which is a final exam. He doesn't have permission to remove us from the campus. What if there is an emergency and we are unaccounted for because we aren't even at the school? His solution was to tell us after the start of the class on our final class day, he would be going to IHOP. And if we wanted to join him, that was our choice. But if we didn't, we would have to stay in the classroom and not bring attention to the fact that there was no class and no teacher. Without talking about it to each other, the 6 of us saw an opportunity to finally get the admin's attention to the complete disregard this teacher had for rules and policies. We made sure to inform our English teacher that we might be late to class on the day of the final due to a class field trip for music theory. She was irritated and reminded us that this final was very important and that she would not give us extra time if we came in late. We told her that we understood and gave her details about where we would be and what we would be doing and who we would be with. She said she still expected us to be in her class. On the day of the final, we all went to IHOP. It took forever to get there because of construction and forever to get our food because the restaurant was newly opened and had a large number of customers. We got back to the school halfway through our second period class. The admins were waiting for us. Security was waiting for us. My English teacher had called the front office to complain that 4 of her best students were missing, and she was fairly certain we weren't even on campus. The admins had checked attendance and seen that we were all marked present that morning, and they had searched the entire school looking for our class. The 4 of us walked into our English final to a livid teacher. We knew she was pissed at us, but couldn't punish us beyond saying that we had the same remaining time as the rest of the class, since we had been with a teacher in our absence. None of us did as well in final as we could have if we had the full 87 minutes. But we were doing well enough in the class already that the lesser marks didn't affect our overall grade too much. The band teacher had a private reprimand that was so loud the entire school could hear it. He was confused as to why the administration was upset that he took minor children off campus without permission or notice, without proper school transportation or even a good reason. He stayed with his usual attitude, but this time towards the admins. Why are you guys so incompetent about this? They're old enough to drive. What's the problem? The English teacher, who I actually adore and was one of the best teachers I've ever had, absolutely went mama bear on the administration. And how could they continue to employ someone who disrespects the other teachers so much as to deprive his students of their final exams and put them in potentially dangerous circumstances? He told us to drive ourselves to the restaurant, and any accidents or medical issues would have been the school's fault. He was fired later that day. Many of the students had a gleeful but confused reaction, since the 6 of us weren't talking to anyone about it. All people knew that this tyrant of a teacher was gone. We didn't spread the story very much of how it happened, because we still feared being reprimanded for our involvement, since he technically gave us a choice to go with him or stay. But I always smiled when people gossiped about what the final straw was that got him fired. I guess this is a teacher's definition of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you have 6 teenagers, they definitely have enough brain power to get you fired. Cut hours? I gotcha. I work for one of the big auto parts stores. We do not have the catchy jingle. This week, the top brass have been crying cut hours like their life was on the line. We barely have enough staff to run as it is, but today was a different scenario entirely. I got told to cut more hours. A little insight. Managers cannot go to lunch or leave our store without having another manager to take their place. Cue the malicious compliance. I cut the hours of 3 non-management employees and gave a few hours to someone who has been out of country for family affairs. We had no layover between these hours, but that doesn't matter. Basically ended up with net 0 hours between cutting and adding. But they wanted me to go further. I cut my own hours. We were scheduled for 2 managers for about 4.5 hours, just us. I called in the next employee, who is non-management, and I asked him to come 2.5 hours early. I left at 2:30. Managers cannot take a lunch if there is no relief manager. So we had me, who worked 8 hours, no lunch, and another manager who will work for 9.5 hours with no lunch. And a third non-management employee who will work 7.5 hours, no lunch. We get a PT stipend for food if we cannot leave the store for lunch as well. Let's break it down. 3 employees got a 1-hour meal penalty at 1 hour of our regular base pay. 1 employee is working more than 9 hours. Everything that is beyond 8 hours is paid 50% more per hour. The company has to pay for their lunch, let's say $30. And 1 employee was called in 2.5 hours earlier than scheduled. So even though we cut hours, it costs the company far more than keeping 1 extra person to be a layover. I am sure I will hear about it when I get back, but I was just following orders, which I have in writing. Well, exactly. They asked to cut hours. They didn't ask to cut costs. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. You can also watch this awesome video or that awesome playlist. See you next time!